All right, welcome to Unforced Errors, episode 25. Carl is having internet problems, so I will be soloing this one. Today we have the SoCal Hard Eights member, number 24 in the world, men's singles. It is Rafael Lenhard. Rafa, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I've watched a couple episodes of the podcast, and happy to be on. I love to talk pickleball, so yeah, let's rock and roll.
Well, we love to talk pickle, so we're in the perfect space for that. I guess let's just start with tell the people who you are if they're not familiar with you, where you're originally from, where you grew up, and then kind of the sports in the early years.
Yeah, so I am from Brazil, born and raised through the first 11 years of my life. Played a lot of sports as a kid. Obviously, soccer. You kind of come out of the womb playing soccer when you grow up out there. But also did tennis, did swimming, did judo, and at 9 years old, I started to focus only on tennis. When I was 11, we moved to the U.S. and the SoCal tennis scene is huge. Actually, I've known like Roscoe Bellamy since he was about 10 years old, through the SoCal tournaments and a couple other folks, Paris Todd. So played through junior tennis, went to college, and after about 6 years of not playing tennis, after quitting, started playing pickleball. So here we are, and yeah, full circle moment for me, for sure.
Awesome. So what was the intro then for pickleball? What was your take? Because obviously there's always this little bit of rift that people think coming from tennis that a lot of times tennis players don't like it. And if they're pro pickleball players,
Yeah.
they've learned to love it. What was your initial intro? How did you get involved with it?
Yeah, I'm definitely part of the latter. I was coaching a lot of tennis. When was this? Around 2021, 2022. I was coaching a lot of tennis, probably 15 to 20 hours a week just as a part-time gig. And my students and I would always hate on pickleball together, because where I coached was mostly public parks and there was usually pickleball courts next to the tennis courts. And obviously it's loud. People play music. It's more of a party scene. I remember one of my students specifically, he's very like clean cut guy and like, a little bit maybe uptight, if that's the right word. And, we're always like, oh, let's move courts. We're too close to the pickleball courts. So definitely was a hater at first. And eventually I just played for fun a couple times with an old high school friend of mine. And then I started learning. This was right around Tour Wars time. So late 2023. When he started telling me about people actually having legit careers and making money doing this, and kind of had a light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, like this could be kind of the dream that I always had, to be a professional athlete and be really good at something. So went all out, pretty much right away in terms of setting my sights on being a full-time pro. And, obviously with training, you kind of ramp up, you learn how the best ways to train. And I was very out of shape too. So, but I was definitely a hater at first, for sure.
As far as like your transition from tennis, what do you think the hardest thing was to transition from? And then did you come into it kind of thinking like, oh, this is not going to be very hard? Like, I'm a tennis player. You played D1, right? Tennis. So this was at Cal Polytechnic State. So this is like, did you come into it kind of thinking like, oh, this is kind of a joke, like I should dominate this? Or was it like you already knew that like Ben Johns existed and that people were playing it on?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know who Ben was. I didn't know anybody, honestly. I'd heard the name, because actually in 2022, I don't count this as when I actually started playing pickleball, because it was an 8-week league at Bobby Riggs. And I was mostly playing with like 3-0s, 3-5s, or of like the older folks. I thought it was, at that point, I went into it as like, oh, let me go socialize and see if I can make some new friends. I was living with my parents at the time. So I played for 8 weeks there, and I'd heard the name like Frazier. I remember specifically someone saying to me like, you don't know Frazier? I'm like, I have no idea who that is. But so in that 2022 league, I didn't know that there was a tour. And then in 2023, when I heard that there was a tour, I imagined that it would be very difficult, but I also did have some sort of irrational exuberance maybe in terms of how quickly I could get there. And I think in a way you need to have that if you want to be really good at something. You got to have this delusional belief that a lot of people talk about. but certainly it was difficult. And with sports, with any sports trajectory, you have highs, you have lows. And in my first two pro tournaments, I actually performed really well on the singles court. The first main draw match I played was against Marshall Brown, and I almost beat him. I had 6-1 in the third set, and I ended up not winning that. Just, he was too good, too experienced. And then after that point, I was like, oh, I'm gonna crush this. And then I started to take some bad losses, and things kind of went south. So certainly when I first learned about the tour, I was like, I could do this. And then it started off well, and then it went down, and then, just the ups and downs of sports. And as far as learning, I mean, this classic tennis player answer was the doubles and the soft game, especially because I didn't really play doubles for the first year that I was actually playing pickleball. So it was really October 2024 when I started to play doubles tournaments and compete more so on the doubles court. But there's a little bit of sort of yes and no to your question there.
Yeah. So what was the specific moment that you realized that you were playing, you said you're playing with like 3-0s, 3-5s. I mean, what do you think you were at that point? Like, were you already a 5-0, you think, at that point? Like, when did you realize, like, oh, I can actually do this pro for sure?
Yeah. Well, after that, I didn't step on a pickleball court for another year, because that was October of 2022. But then my first tournament was December 2023, after I'd been playing for maybe like 2-3 weeks, right? November 2023. And I actually won the 4-5 singles. I think that was maybe the moment where I was like, oh, geez, I'm actually like pretty good at this. I got bronze in 4-5 mixed, and then 5-0 doubles. We didn't do great. I think we went like 2-2 or something. But yeah, after that singles tournament, especially because I was very out of shape, that was probably the biggest challenge, not doing anything for 6 years and then stepping on the court. I actually cramped in my third game to 15 that day playing singles. It was the first time I ever played singles. I had no idea how the scoring worked. In my first match, I remember I went to go serve from the wrong side because we had just played on the right side, and I went to the left side, and I'm like, dude, you're on the wrong side. He's like, no, that's actually not how the scoring works. So yeah, I think that was the point. At the end of that day, I ended up, winning gold, where I was like, okay, I think I got something here. So
yeah. So then let's fast forward, I guess, a little bit here. You end up at the Selkirk Sparta Combine, right? I didn't know this was even a thing. We've had Anwar Braham on previously.
Yeah, I watched that episode. Yeah,
and he's got such an insane story coming from Tunisia. But I didn't realize that there was like multiple people were trying for these contracts. I was thinking like, oh, you were already fully signed PPA Pro, but you are a Selkirk signed pro right now, correct?
So I recently signed with the PPA, actually. So as of it did kind of, the stars aligned with sort of perfect timing for me, because after that first tournament, December 2023, my life's goal was to be able to quit my corporate job. And the Selkirk Sparta Combine was in September of 2025. And at that point, I'd already had some big wins, right? I'd beaten Gabe, Noe, Ben on the singles court. And so when I got there, I was confident that hey, I'm a good candidate for this. And so I was one of 4 people to be selected to be one of the Sparta pros for, as a result of that combine. And then shortly after, in December of 2025, I won the Raleigh Challenger in singles, and then I had a good run in Daytona where I got third, so my first PPA medal. And at that point, the conversations kind of reignited, because I had talked a little bit with Chris Patrick over at PPA after Convention Center, which was the Walgreens Open, where I beat Gabe, beat Donald, and broke into the top 50. But they really, they weren't biting. So it took beating Fed, getting third, and then getting my ranking up to the top 30 for them to eventually come to the table with a contract in January of this year and sign me. So the stars did kind of align. It was perfect timing, where I got signed as a Sparta pro, quit my corporate job, had the good results, and then basically immediately got signed to the PPA.
Let's talk about this Sparta Combine because I'm a big NFL Combine guy. What was the process there for that? What did they have you do?
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar, and it was a really fun experience. I always wanted to have that experience of going to a combine and doing all this physical testing. So you do a 20-yard dash, and you do everything twice, right? So you do a 20-yard dash, vertical jump, broad jump, medicine ball throw. You do like the reaction board with the lights. You do a flexibility and balance testing where sort of you have one foot in like a center platform, and then you know, your other foot kind of stretches in all different directions, and you try to hold on. You do an endurance testing, so they basically feed you balls for 2 minutes and then measure your heart rate and how quickly you recover. What else? You do agility, right? So like a spider drill on the court with cones. So you do all that twice. It's really intense. I was really, really sore after that day, and I'm someone who trains off the court. And you would think that, you know, you're only doing these exercises twice. It's not that much, but you're really trying. Like you wanna separate yourself from the group. So you're trying hard. You're pushing your muscles. So I got really sore after day one. And then day two is where you play all the games. So you do 6 mixed games with all the other girls that are there. You do 6 men's games with all the other guys, and then you play singles at the end. So it's a pretty intense 2 days, and they have a couple more combines coming up too, which I think I will be there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And is that how the NFL combines are? I don't really follow NFL, but I imagine they do all the similar testing, right, and measurements and whatnot.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works in a nutshell, essentially. Obviously, some different things there, but in general, that's
Sure.
how it works. So, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that that existed until I started looking into you, and then I said, "Oh, this didn't know this was a thing." Now, that's another thing I need to pay attention to. So, but it seems,
Yeah. Well, that was the first one.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it
That
seems
was
like
the
a
very first
really
one.
awesome thing, and it gives these pros that are up and coming a chance, to get sponsored by Selkirk and be able to rep their stuff. And obviously, any sponsorship helps in this economy. So,
Yeah. In the pickleball space too, right? Because I certainly would have not quit my corporate job just being signed to the PPA. And Selkirk's vision for that is to really make more of an impact in the pro scene. Obviously, they used to dominate that. There was so many pros, using Selkirk, and then they had the emerging pros program, and so many people were there. But I think they really want to hone in on the athletes that are serious and that want to, rise to the top of the game and really make an impact. And that's why they're doing this testing and, you know, having people apply, and you got to pay for the application. You got to fly out there. They want to see who's committed, so that they can really invest their resources into that team and kind of get back to the pro scene, because they've dominated the market in the amateur scene really with their bundle deals at Costco, and even the boomstick now is like you go to a local park and it's like 3 out of 4 people are using the boomstick. So yeah, I think it's a super cool initiative.
yeah. So you've had a lot of success in singles. What do you think makes the transition to doubles so difficult? I feel like this is, like Chris Hayworth is another example. He dominates in singles. Doubles, he's a little bit further behind. What makes doubles so challenging? Is it the strategy? Is it that you're now relying on a teammate instead of kind of just controlling the court yourself? Where do you think the difficulty lies in doubles?
Yeah, and shout out to Chris. We're actually teaming up next week in St. George. So the two singles guys.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, in my own journey, like I said, I started playing so much later, so it made sense to me that my singles game took off. Like I was only playing singles at these pro qualies for really the first year of my career, but I think more importantly, it is the pattern recognition. It is understanding the strategy. Of course, the dinking is difficult. And as you go up in level, you see that these guys are really doing damage with their dinks, which is hard to see on TV. But when you're on the court across from them, the pressure that you feel is different than, say, because early 2024 I could get anybody in the park and just go dink and not miss a dink, right? But then when you're on the court, they're moving around, they're looking for speed ups. There's all these variables that are some within your control and some not in your control, right? How's your partner setting you up with their dinks and their thirds? So there's certainly a lot more strategy, which we hear, which we hear smart players saying often. And singles coming from tennis is a more natural transition because you are hitting more ground strokes. You're playing a little bit more like tennis, and even now people staying back, right? It's just more of a closer cousin to tennis than doubles, where it's certainly more strategic based, pattern recognition based, where I'm still out there kind of just playing the ball and not really thinking too much about what I'm doing. Whereas I'm sure somebody like an Alshon is looking for specific shots and specific openings and specific follow up shots that, you know, on a side note, if you're not getting those reps in practice, it's really hard to go into the match and be able to beat those guys until you're seeing that level more and more often.
And are you still in Las Vegas, or you're still in Vegas? So is there enough, because we have multiple pros here like Anderson Scarpa and the Kuzmiter brothers and Olivia McMillan.
Where are you located?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So always the difficult thing is to find people your level to train with. How does that work in Vegas? Is the level high enough that you can get those reps like you're talking about?
No, it's not. And that's why, and shout out to all my friends and practice partners, because like they've helped me drill. We play doubles games. It's just not the pro level though. We have, Pesa is here sometimes and he's great to drill with. Utah, we actually just got some great games this morning with Utah as well. And this guy named Sergey, who recently moved here. But we don't have a wide pool of players. And I actually, as soon as I got the Sparta sponsorship, I immediately started talking to a realtor and saying, hey, I want to sell my Vegas house as soon as possible because I can't rent it. There's like a rental cap in our HOA, so I can't rent it. I'm like 21 on the wait list, right? So not in my lifetime. And for me to sell, it would have been like we would have been listing it at the same price I bought it for 2.5 years ago. So it just has to make some financial sense, I feel like, for me to make that move. But that was definitely the goal. Like my sights set on moving to Phoenix right away. But as of now, Vegas is still home base. I'm getting the drills in, and if we have pros visiting, that's amazing, right? Because then we can actually get some games. But what I actually did before Newport is I went to Phoenix just to spend a week there and train, because it's so key to be able to see those high level shots. I mean, the pros at that level get an extra ball back that the guys I'm practicing with otherwise wouldn't, right? Whether it's in a hands battle or off an aggressive dink or just a consistency off the basic shots like the third, the fourth, the fifth. So yeah, it's certainly something that for my career I'm hoping to kind of figure out sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, on the East Coast, obviously Florida is king over here, but I know Texas has a big scene, and then Arizona, I assume on the West Coast is probably one of the bigger scenes. I'm not sure, maybe California involved as well, but
Cali's good. I would say Arizona is probably number two, the number two spot. Austin, I think has a good say in that, but yeah, Florida, Austin, Arizona are probably the three best spots, I think, for just density of pros.
Yeah. All right. So let's transition. You kind of spoke on this earlier, but just kind of want to get what the feeling was like talking about some of your bigger wins here. Obviously, the most notable one, San Clemente last year, defeating Ben Johns. You also went on and beat Zane Navratil, Noe Cliff, losing Alshon in the quarters. What was that run like?
Yeah. That was amazing. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I had in 2025 was a year where I really committed fully to pickleball and to playing tournaments. 2024, I only played 6 tournaments. I was on and off with practice. It was more of a hobby, even though mentally I was like, I want to do this full time. The actions weren't congruent with that thought. And in 2025 was like, okay, I need to travel to play money balls and to get match rhythm so that when I get the chance to play PPAs, I'm ready. Because I was still working full time. It's not like I could have been playing every PPA and taking PTO 2, 3, 4 times a month. So with all that said, going through the San Clemente run, I basically had all my friends that I'd made through these money balls and Kappa and I Pickle kind of cheering me on and being loud. You know, the crowd was awesome and my level was great. I played against Noe, probably the best 20 minutes of pickleball I ever played in my life, just ripping winners side to side, and people were going crazy. And it was, yeah, it was a dream because really, Ben, I mean, I'd had one main draw match win before playing Ben, right? So Ben was the third main draw appearance I'd had, or the fourth. And I'd lost out, you know, to Marshall the first time, to Colin Chick, and then the third time was against Pablo. I was able to get that win, but that was the first main draw level win I'd had. So playing Ben was surreal, you know, and beating Ben and then continuing the run with Zane and Noe was just like, I think it was really reassuring and yeah, I mean, fun is the word that comes to mind for sure. It just was like, wow, I feel like I'm living in a movie, you know, like we see people say my life's a movie. Like that's what that felt like to me during that week.
Yeah, and outside of, obviously you mentioned Daytona getting bronze and beating Fed in that one. You also have had some really good luck through the challengers, which is kind of where I figured you out and was like, oh, this guy's legit. Where did he come from? And I just was joking. I'm like, he just came out of nowhere, and all he does is he just wins. So Little Rock was a good one for you, both singles and then mixed with Jelena Ingram, who, you know, talking about up and coming risers, she's unbelievable. And then
She's great.
yeah, so and then with Troy Aiken as well, and so
Yes. So Jelena was in Tucson a couple
Tucson,
months.
yes.
It was in February of this year. Little Rock, October. That was when I won singles and then men's with Troy. Yeah, shout out to Troy.
Let's talk a little bit about MLP. Your
Yeah.
first time playing MLP, right? So you got picked up on the SoCal Hard Eights. Megan Dazon, Caitlin Campbell, Naomi Wynn, Armand Bhatia, Will McKinnon. I mean, the team is stacked. What's the thought process as far as, do you prefer the team atmosphere? I mean, you played college tennis, right? So I feel like it's a natural progression, but do you prefer the team atmosphere, or do you kind of like the way the standard PPAs play?
So I had a pretty poor college tennis experience. I mean, I quit after 2 years. I didn't really get along with my team, and a lot of that was just self-inflicted, you know, just kind of the way I was and the way I acted. So I don't have fond memories of playing on a team, and generally speaking, I prefer the main PPA, right, with the draws, and it's an individual sport. You mean, of course, doubles, but I prefer that a lot. With that said, I think MLP is like a second chance for me to have a better experience in a team environment. I really wanted to get drafted to, I feel like it'd be legitimizing to my career. And I'm excited about the team. I mean, Will McKinnon is coming out and staying with me for Friday and Saturday, you know, kind of leading up to Red Rock. So we're going to get some training in here. And I'm ready to get my right side game going, right? Because we got two left side guys, Armand and Will. So I want to be the right side guy for the team. So yeah, prefer the PPA, but excited about MLP for sure.
Yeah, well, obviously not just doubles, you're going to be a singles weapon for them. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So we're talking about all of these big wins and all of that stuff. I know you haven't been on the tour long, or you haven't been playing pro long, but how do you manage the burnout that comes with that? Because I feel like whether you play for a year or 5, you're going to experience that just from the grind, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a big learning curve for me. I mean, you probably have experienced this in your life at some point, and I'm sure most people have. It's like when you work towards a goal for so long, and that's like your life goal, and then you finally accomplish it, and then you have a bit of a come down. I feel like that really happened with me, which again was to quit the corporate job, right? For 2 years, that's what I worked for. And then I got on tour in January, and it all kind of happened in like the blink of an eye, pretty much immediately. So to your question, like managing the burnout, I mean, I burned out of tennis and I lost passion for tennis. But that was really due to my own decisions, my own choices that kind of led me down a wrong path. And I never thought I'd have the opportunity to compete again and to experience sort of the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. So, you know, I'm sure maybe at some point I'll get a burnout, but I'm really trying to enjoy everything. And it's been difficult. I've had some pretty lackluster results this year, besides maybe the Tucson mixed doubles win with Jelena. So it's certainly not easy, right? 2025, I was winning a lot, almost everything in the money balls and the challengers, and even in the big PPAs, I was having good runs almost every tournament. So I think for me is understanding what this new life is like, not having, a set routine of waking up at a certain time and then, working out of my computer and then going to train at a certain time, then doing my gym at a certain time. Like now it's kind of open, and I haven't been super happy with my training regimen this year. Not because I'm lazy or because I'm putting practice aside. It's just kind of managing all these different things that are coming into my life at once. Like doing podcasts, right? Like this is totally new for me too. Um, so it's a learning curve. I'm about 3 months in. But when I think about the future and what that holds, like I want to be the next Matt Wright out there. I have so much respect for him. 48 years old on the tour, competing for medals. At the end of the day, I feel like I was born to do this, so I'm very happy and blessed and grateful to be in this position. But it doesn't mean that there's not a process that has to be learned and crafted, just like my previous routine was. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And then to spin off of that, how do you handle the losses? Is there a process? Like, are you going through and breaking down the film? Are you kind of trying to just flush it, move on? What's the process on these losses? Because like tennis, you're going to lose a lot more than you win. That's just the math of this thing, unless you're Ben or Anna Lee, which is an anomaly in this. But
Yeah.
what is the process for, handling those?
Yeah. I think one, it depends on the loss, right? It depends who I lost to and how I lost. Um, I'll give you an example. I had the last two tournaments, right? One, I lost to Jack in the round of 16, very competitive match. I thought I was going to win during the match. Immediately I get home and I watch tape and I kind of identify where do I feel like I gave him opening slash made mistakes and got myself into a hole. And then right after, I played in the McKinney Open and lost first round to a good player, Andrew Calderala. He's a junior. He's a good player. He's got skill, but certainly a match I should win, at least on paper most of the times. And you kind of look at each individual loss and try to understand what goes wrong. That one was a really painful one because I was so confident coming out of Newport, and you try to understand what affects you, not just on the court, but off the court. Specifically that day, I mean, I've been having some nose issues that keep waking me up at night. And, I'd been up since 2:30, couldn't actually get to sleep. So I was exhausted. And it's like, well, what can I do maybe the night before to make sure that doesn't happen, or what have you. So sometimes you look at on the court stuff, right? Like, because everything off the court went well. And then you can just kind of analyze the X's and O's. And other times you have to think, well, if you're not in a prime situation to be at your competitive best, how do you dig yourself out of that hole? So I love reading. I love sports psychology books. Immediately after that tournament, I picked up a couple books on visualization because I want to try to be the best I can in every area. And working on the mind, just like we would work on a dink cross court, I think is important. And sure, I was not at my best, but I also believe that the best athletes find a way to win when that's the case. So to give you a straight answer, I don't have a clear cut process yet. I think that's still part of the learning curve that I'm going through.
What do you think the hardest part of being on the road is so much? And then what is the favorite part for you for traveling?
The hardest part of being on the road is the routine. For sure. Like I'm very routine oriented. Like I said, for 2 years was work, then gym, then training, right? And you can kind of just plan perfectly around what it is that you need. And when you're on the road, maybe you don't have access to a gym, or maybe you can't really lift weights because you're going to get sore and you got to be ready to play. And then you got to go to the grocery store and get everything you need for the week. There's just a lot of little things that add up that makes it hard for you to like know exactly what you're going to do at certain times. And it is very tiring. I mean, you do miss sleeping in your own bed and just being settled into that routine, but it's something that the best players do, and something that I believe can be learned. Now, as far as like the cool parts, just seeing new cities, meeting new people. Like I stayed with Troy's in-laws for the McKinney Open, which was fun, right? Like got to hang out with them and just build new connections. I like to try different foods, different restaurants, and just traveling, man. Like even though we're not going to for tourism, right, and really exploring cities, I think just the ability to say that you travel for work and you get to be in this position where that is your life, it's just cool. It's something cool to reflect on for sure.
If you could give advice to a younger player who wants to go pro, what would you tell them as far as both on and off the court?
How young are we talking here? What's the age?
You can pick any age, because I feel like we just had Cam Chafin on, and I told him at 14, I won't tell you what I was doing, but it certainly wasn't anything high level. But
Yeah, same here.
I don't know, maybe late teens, early 20s.
Well, when I think back, I guess to sort of how I approach my career is that you're in such a good developmental stage when you're in your late teens, early 20s. Like that is the time where you can make so many gains. And it's really hard to understand this at that age. At least it was for me, how far you are in certain aspects to being at that top pro level, and in other aspects how close you are, right? Like Cam Chafin, I mean, he just had an incredible run in Minnesota, some amazing wins, almost beat Chris, and he's 14 years old. What I would tell them is disciplined action over a long period of time will get you to excellence in your field. Man, in pickleball, if you're at that age playing, if you're already playing pickleball at that age, I would say stick with it if that's what you love. Do you love to compete? Do you have fun? Do you, when you're out on the court, do you find yourself in that flow state of where you're just enjoying and maybe things are going a little bit slower? You feel like time slows down for you. Like if you're getting that feeling, I'll tell you, you don't get that feeling in the corporate world. So by all means, keep going, discipline action, even if it's little actions per day, try to win the day. Do what you can to improve just a little bit each day, and you'll get there. So that's what I would say. Pretty vague advice maybe, but that's what I would tell myself, I guess.
No, I mean, I think that's great. I love that answer, because there's a lot of good stuff that you just said there. And even though you might think it's vague, I think there's a lot of things that you can hone in off of that. So that's a great answer. How do you approach partnerships and chemistry at the pro level? What are you looking for in a doubles partner?
What a good question. If I had the answer to that, that'd be nice. Well, a lot of people can relate to this. When you first get signed on the tour, mostly everybody's partnered up. It's hard to find someone consistent. For example, I'm pretty much playing with a different partner every tournament through Atlanta. I have one exception to that, but I think you kind of take what you can get in the beginning, right? And you kind of start to figure out what works and what doesn't from a partnership standpoint. I know for me, taking an outside perspective of people that have been watching the sport for a long time is very valuable. As soon as I did that, I started to have success on the doubles court, right? So everybody for many months told me, you need steadier partners. You need somebody who just makes balls. You need somebody consistent. And I partnered up with Troy, and he was able to do exactly that. And we had great success, in our first three tournaments. We had big wins. We had the Little Rock win. And as you're playing with different partners as well, I'd say be open-minded to talking strategy with them. But most importantly, I would say develop your own skills when you are training, when you're at home. Work on your right side game, work on your left side game, and make yourself an asset to whoever you play with. Because at the end of the day, even if you don't have good results, if people partner with you and you have a good energy and you are showing that you're willing to improve and work hard, I think that word is going to spread and people are going to want to play with you more, and people are going to see your improvements as well.
How often are you drilling, and what is the workout regimen generally through the week?
Yeah. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying of like, I haven't been able to establish myself into the ideal routine yet. Right. But say if I'm in Vegas, I'm drilling more than I'm playing, just because when you have that difference in skill level, it's hard for you to really get much out of just playing games, right? So you kind of want to hit more balls. You kind of want to work on specific shots. And I'm thankful that my friends are willing to do that with me and help me drill. I'll tell you what a perfect day would look like for me would be like a 10 to 11:30 a.m. session of perhaps some drills, singles drills, doubles drills, maybe some singles points at the end. Then go home, have lunch, then get in an off court training like a workout or a run or an agility training session, and then maybe get like a 2 hour to 3 hour just games session in the afternoon. Now I will say break up your practices with whatever you need. So maybe one day you do just doubles drills for that morning hour and a half, and then the next day you just do singles drills. And that can be just dinking, playing kitchen games, transition games. And then for singles, I love to do figure eights, so rallying ground strokes from the baseline, cross court down the line. You can have one person at the net volleying cross court, where you're dropping cross court and ripping down the line. So those kinds of drills are really great for singles. But yeah, I would drill every single day, for an hour and a half, and then set up games in the afternoon so that you can be a little bit more loose, have some fun, and then work on the things that you worked on in the morning drill sesh.
As far as your warm-up routine before the game, are we still workshopping that, or do you feel like you kind of have that locked in as far as what's been working for you?
Are we talking about like a tournament day?
Yeah, tournament.
Like what the warm-up looks like? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Always workshopping, man. Always trying to find ways to make it better, frankly. But start with a dynamic warm up. I want to start traveling with bands. I keep forgetting to put bands in my bag because I want to do that for like glute activation. But doing, heel to toe walks, doing a dynamic warm up with hip openers and leg swings, just to get the body warm and ready. Usually we start with singles in a progressive draw, which is every tournament now. So you start with singles. I love to do that figure eight warm up, even if it's just for like 5 to 10 minutes, because you get the feeling of not just ripping ground strokes, but also moving side to side while ripping ground strokes, and then playing a couple points. So that would be the ideal warm up, is really just going through those drills, hitting cross court down the line, then doing the figure eights, and then playing some points. And then for doubles, it's pretty simple. You just start dinking down the line, move back, hit some resets, hit some thirds, and then, scoop up whatever other team is warming up for some games. But yeah, certainly still a workshop. I mean, I've played 5 tournaments this year, which is a lot, but it's also not a lot, especially because I'm not going super deep in these tournaments. And it's certainly something that you're always kind of looking to improve and get yourself the most ready. For example, last year I would train for like an hour and a half the day before a tournament, and now I'm training way more. So really trying to figure out what works best,
Yeah. How does the strategy change for different opponents, and how much are you adapting to your game to their weaknesses, or are you kind of just trying to stay in your lane?
I've always said with pickleball, specifically for singles, that it doesn't really matter who's across the net from you. And I think that certainly helped me get some of the big wins early, because if you're hitting your spots, there's not much that they can do, right, on the singles court. So I would say focus on making sure that you're the most ready with your shots. Now for doubles, I do think it matters a little bit more with your strategy, understanding what balls the left side guy likes to attack. Where does he like to go for the speed up? What type of dinking patterns do you want to get into? I think that matters a lot more in doubles. Mix is a bit more of a wild card, right? And how good can the guy play, and how steady is the girl to your right? But yeah, for doubles, I'm still considering myself pretty green, and I'm still trying to understand what the best patterns are. But I would say watching tape and looking for some of those pointers I just mentioned is very important to have success on the doubles court, for sure.
All right. So we do also talk a lot with the rec, on the rec side of things. We do paddle reviews and do all these things. That's why there's multiple paddles hanging behind me.
Yeah.
From a pro standpoint, there's always all these discussions back and forth. What are you looking for as far as like a honeycomb core versus a foam core? You're using a boomstick right now, which is a full foam. What is a pro looking for in a paddle?
Yeah, and I actually just switched back to the Era quite recently, 2 weeks right before Newport. I'm definitely a honeycomb core guy for sure. I do think it does vary from singles and doubles. So like in singles, I reached my highest level with the Power Air because I was swinging so free. And I felt like I could be extremely accurate. The paddle was very responsive, and the exit velocity wasn't as high, the spin was higher, the consistency was higher, and I really struggled with the boomstick. Meaning, obviously, I had great results with it, right? I mean, winning Raleigh, getting third in Daytona, that was with the boomstick. But at the same time, I felt like the ups were very high and the lows were very low. I struggled to find the consistency. As soon as I went back to the Era, which is a honeycomb core, I felt much more consistency in my game. I felt like I could actually pinpoint my shots a little bit more. And yes, you give up some power for sure. I played with the boomstick in doubles in Newport, but I recently just switched to the Era for all three divisions because I personally like the response a little bit more, the consistency of the ball coming off the paddle a little bit more than the foam, where it was just more unpredictable. I felt like sometimes I could hit a great shot, and other times it would be halfway up the net, and other times it would be, over on the next court. So, yeah, I'm willing to give up some power. Of course, you want a big sweet spot for hands battles, but I'm willing to give up power to feel like I can put the ball more on a dime for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the Gen 3 style honeycomb has a more connected feel to it, and I'm with you there. After hitting both, foam is fun to use, and I want to get into. You're also doing some teaching, right?
Yeah, I do a little bit of teaching. I've done some clinics, take some lessons here and there. So a little bit, nothing crazy.
Yeah, so I just see so many people using a boomstick at a rec level, like 3, 5 and under, and Jay Evans actually joked about this on Twitter because he teaches as well, and said like the best thing that ever happened on Christmas for me as a teacher is that everybody got boomsticks for Christmas because nobody can control it. So I always think that's interesting.
And I will mention I've had a lot of pros and a lot of non-pros, also a lot of amateurs ask me why I switched from the boomstick to the Era, and a lot of people mentioning some of the similar struggles with the controllability of the paddle, if that's even a word, and like just kind of inquiring like, hey, why are you using the Era? Like I'm kind of going through the same thing. I will say I do think the boomstick works very well for amateur play just because they're not like full swinging like we would a drive, like a tennis drive, right? And they can kind of, kind of bunt the shot a little bit more and maybe get that extra power. But as you go up in level, the accuracy of your shots becomes so much more important, which is where I feel like the advantage is there for the honeycomb.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I say this all the time as a 3-5 player and mostly trash at this game. There are paddles that I should be playing with, and there are paddles that I have a lot of fun playing with. A boomstick style pop and power. I have no business touching it, but boy, it's fun. So
yeah. Well, nice honesty there.
Yeah,
appreciate the self-awareness.
That's all we can do on this podcast. All right. So I'm going to just go through some rapid fire questions. These can be as rapid as you want. Or if you want to elaborate on them, it makes no difference. We're going to run through them. You got about 10 here. And
all right, let's do it.
All right. Third shot, drive or drop?
Let's go with drop.
Favorite shot?
Forehand inside in.
Hardest player you've faced so far? Maybe specific to that gives you a challenge, the matchup wise.
Alshon in singles, Hayden in doubles.
One thing from tennis that helps you the most in pickleball?
Biomechanics for drives.
Favorite tournament you've played?
Gosh, Daytona.
Dream doubles partner, male or female?
I mean, obviously the answer is Anna Lee Waters and Ben Johns, but I'll give you a different one. I will say, give me Alshon.
Okay.
On my right.
What's the pre-match music? What's on repeat?
Not a huge pre-match music guy, but pump up song is Feel Good by Gorillaz.
Okay. One player you think is underrated right now?
Gosh, I feel like there's a lot of players that are potentially underrated right now. Let's go with Tama Shimabukuro in singles. He's pretty underrated.
Yeah.
Kid's good, man.
He's very good at singles and doubles. He's another one.
He just made quarters, so he may not be underrated anymore. But I was watching him play in Tucson too, and I'm like, he can play with those guys.
Favorite post-match meal?
Is this any match? Is this winning a tournament match? Is this like after the, you know what I'm saying? Like, do I have to play the next day or do I not play the next day? Because that does change the meal.
Yeah, that's fair. See, you're getting granular with this. I'm not prepared. We're gonna go with.
I tend to do that.
Yeah, I can tell you've been in the corporate world.
Oh man, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Well, I'm in it too, so you're in good company. Let's go with you just won. There are, nothing's off the table. You don't have to play tomorrow.
I don't have to play tomorrow. Let's go with Taco Bell, Doritos tacos, and a steak quesadilla and a milkshake from Cold Stone.
That's it.
Just full send.
That's living there. Go to karaoke song.
Real Slim Shady. I got every word down.
All right. Well, when we're in Atlanta, I'm going to have to see this, hopefully. But
Let's go, baby.
favorite place you've traveled for pickleball?
They've all been great. I will say like Atlanta, the lifetime there was beautiful. Really loved that facility. It's hard not to tie it to results though, so I'll say Daytona. Like we had a hotel right by the beach. I went on a beach walk, like that was nice. And obviously the result is just you tie so much of your emotion to your result. So let's go with Daytona.
Yeah, wow. That Pictona complex too, I've played there, is incredible.
It's so nice.
49 courts. I mean, just an unbelievable mecca.
It's beautiful. Great center court too.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Goal for you the next 12 months.
I have it written down, so I'll just look up here. Top 40 in men's and mixed doubles. I wanted to make the PPA final, but I kind of slashed my chances with my results this year. So, top 40 in men's and mixed by December.
All right. So that's it. You've done it. Any sponsors you want to shout out, and then tell the people your socials. How do they find you?
Yeah, so first and foremost, Selkirk just gave me the opportunity to live my dream and be a pro athlete. So obviously, Selkirk is the main shout out there. Use my code Sparta-R Lenhard to buy any Selkirk product and get a little bit of money back on your purchase. And then Give Butter, the corporate company I used to work for, they're sponsoring me as well. They're a nonprofit fundraising platform, so they're free to use. Just go and sign up. And huge shout out to them. Great people. And those two sponsors for now. And sorry, Rafael Lenhard on social. RAFALENHARD. Sorry, I forgot to throw that in there.
No problem. We'll toss it in.
Cool. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate you having me.
All right, Rafa, thank you so much for joining us. This is Unforced Errors with Frank and Carl, episode 25. We appreciate Rafa for stopping by, answering all of my questions, and we will be seeing you on the next one. You can follow us everywhere at Unforced Errors PB. And until next time, see ya.